say you are 18 years old and you just got into a tragic car accident. Let's say you have died multiple times and doctors don't know if you're going to wake up. Would you want someone to fight to keep you alive, even if your chances of daily life might be a little different than they were before? I would like to open with a quote that solidifies why I am here. Quote, "The sanctity of life always takes precedence over the quality of life, for life defines what is the definitive intrinsic attribute." Quote from Daryavesh Radamesh, who is a doctor with a PhD in social psychology. Hi everyone, my name is Savannah Holcomb and I am here for the resolution, the individual ought to value the sanctity of life above the quality of life. Observation 1, definitions. Life, the existence of an individual human being, including the capacity for growth, reproduction, functional activity, and continual change preceding death. Source, dictionary.com. Sanctity, ultimate importance and inviolability. Quality, the standard of something measured against other things of a similar kind, the degree of excellence of something. Abortion, the deliberate termination of a human pregnancy or a misshapen thing or person known as a development resulting in imperfection. Source, dictionary.com and Merriam-Webster-Dictionary.com. Today, the value I present to you is the gift of life. The gift of life is the most important thing that a human could ever have. Life is the necessity which is required before anything else can be attained. A human wouldn't be a human without life. Life is not only the most basic human right, but a gift for everyone who is considered living gets the wonderful opportunity to have. My criterion that I'm now going to be using to uphold my value is the pure value of life. Now, I know this may sound like I'm repeating myself, but the value of life is what I'm going to use in order to prove to you that other than the gift of life, nothing else could be more valuable. Contention 1, the significance of life and when it begins. Before I get into exactly what is so significant about life itself, I feel it's important to further describe exactly what life is and when it begins. Many believe that life begins at birth, but I'm here to tell you that that is wrong. In a quote from Live Action, an advocacy group for human rights, they state that life begins at the moment of fertilization. The entire genetic makeup of a human being is being formed. This includes sex, eye color, and other traits. The difference between someone at fertilization, 4 months old, 2 years old, 17, 35, and 80 is development aided by nutrition and time. End quote. Life begins at fertilization and ends at death. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about this. To describe this further, quote, "Life begins at fertilization" is a shorthand way to say that the zygote is the first developmental stage of a human being's life cycle. This is not a religious premise, it is a biological fact, attested to in countless biology and embryology texts and affirmed by the majority of people, and the majority of biologists worldwide. Embryos are humans, fetuses are humans, both are so utterly deserving of life. Contention 2, the importance of life, the importance of the sanctity of life and how quickly it can be taken away. In 2008, my aunt got into a tragic car accident resulting in a traumatic brain injury. She died 13 times on the way to the hospital in a life flight ambulance. No one thought she would make it for over a week. The doctors decided to place her into a medically induced coma for over a month to try and allow her brain to heal. No one knew what the outcome would be. 90% of doctors told my family that she would never walk again, she would never talk again, and they said that she would never have, they said that she would have the absolute worst quality of life. Sadly, this is just like a lot of doctors tell mothers about their unborn baby. They said that she would never be able to live normally again. She stayed in the hospital for over 6 months, learning how to walk, talk, smile, and even breathe on her own again. Now, 14 years later, she's a thriving 32-year-old. She loves the Lord and is in a relationship and even just cooked Thanksgiving dinner. Despite the doctors not saying that her quality of life would be greatly depleted, we did not give up on her. She's no different than an unborn baby that cannot fight for themselves. Life can be given and taken away in an instant. Her quality of life may not be exactly the same right now, but her being alive is more of a gift than anybody could ever know. Contention 3, human rights from conception. Human rights, the most inalienable and unfailing right is the right to live, the right to breathe. Not only for adults, not only for teens and kids, but unborn babies, for the ones without a voice. The United Nations Declaration of Rights state that, quote, "Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and the security of a person. Everyone has the right to be recognized as a person before the law." Source, ncbi.nlm.nih.gov. Despite some unborn babies' rights being protected, the stool that they stand on wobbles more and more every day. Quote, "The right to life is a fundamental human right. The rights of a zygote, embryo, or fetus, that would be, are superior to the rights of women." Based on these facts, if we hold to the validity of these statements and preborn children, if people that may not be able to speak for themselves are human beings, then we would have to conduct that even the youngest and oldest among us have the same inalienable rights to life as those who are born and healthy. Therefore, I urge the judges to vote for the resolution. The individual ought to value the sanctity of life above the quality of life, so that every life can be lived, and so that the sanctity of life always overarches the possible quality of life. Thank you.
Good morning. Can you define the sanctity of life for me?
Sanctity is defined as the ultimate importance and inviolability in life, is defined as the existence of an individual human being, including the capacity for growth, reproduction, functional activity, and continual change preceding death.
Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Because all life is defined as sacred, and that's where it derives its value, do you agree that no life should be taken by another?
Yes.
Define the quality of life for me, please.
Quality is defined as the standard of something as measured against other things of a similar kind, the degree of excellence of something, and life is described as the existence of an individual human being, including the capacity for growth, reproduction, functional activity, and continual change preceding death.
Can you repeat your value for me?
Yes, my value is the gift of life.
Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Because life is a gift, does a human have the right to reject that gift?
No.
And can you repeat your second contention for me?
My second contention is the importance of the sanctity of life and how quickly it can be taken away.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
You stated in your first contention that not every individual is good. Can you tell me what defines that someone's life is valuable or they are good or not?
I would define the value of someone's life if it does not cost another life. The value of life is dependent on its contributions to society. However, if it takes away from society, if it takes away the life of another individual, then its value must be taken away too.
So do you believe that you are in the position to determine that?
I believe that there are societal rules that determine that, such as the justice system, which defines the price that one must pay for taking another's life.
Okay. Can you define individual welfare for me?
Individual welfare.
You stated it
The
multiple
Merriam-Webster
times.
dictionary defines individual welfare as the state of doing well, especially in respect to good fortune, happiness, well-being, or prosperity.
Okay. You stated two different definitions at the beginning of your 1 and C. Does that mean that you disagreed with my definitions?
I believe they're very similar, but I would like to restate the definitions that I stated. I'd like to reject yours and in place use mine.
Okay. You stated that not every individual that is going to be born, a big reason is that they're not going to be able to be provided for. What role would adoption play into this?
Adoption is a process which the responsibility of a child is transferred to another parent. And this is, in fact, a very small cases of impoverished. It lies in a very small amount of cases. While adoption certainly does solve this issue, it does not solve the issue for the hospital bills accrued through the birth of a child and other circumstances in which the child must be cared for.
Did you know that there's multiple policies and government assistance in place that can help pay for those hospital bills and added expenses that come with adoption?
Yes,
sir.
ma'am.
Okay. Did you know that there are over 160,000 families wanting to adopt just in the U.S.?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No further questions. Good morning. I would like to thank everyone for coming out this morning, to our judges for judging, Jackson for putting in all the effort to support your case, and everyone else attending. Once again, my name is Savannah Holcomb, and I am for the resolution, the individual ought to value the sanctity of life above the quality of life. To begin, I would like to go over some of the negatives values. To refute my opponent's value of individual welfare, I think it's important to point out that we should not only be worried about ourselves. If he is implying that, we have the right to judge who is good or not, I feel like we should also have the right to be able to help anyone that we want. My opponent claims that not every individual is good, but I say that what defines an individual as good is not up to us. He claims that not every individual wants to live, which is true, but it is said that that the moral concept of a life not being worth living raises an important issue for measuring the quantity and the quality, the quality of life. Terminally ill adults and children often feel like he was saying that life is not worth living and that they're too sick to complete their life. But honestly, that's not up to us to decide that life is worth living or not. Finally, he has argued that many mothers are not provided for, and they feel that they're not competent and able to take care of the children. But as I've stated, there's many policies and helps in place, not only with the government, but with many agencies and things that have been put in place that are there specifically to help them. So I'd like to restate that the gift of life is the utmost basic requirement and a gift that everyone has. It's a necessity to live and to breathe and to be, a human. In my first contention, I stated that the significance of life is something that should be valued over everything else. The conception of a baby, a human, is deserving of life no matter the quality. Many people bring up not only the women's well-being, but also the women's health and safety regarding carrying a child. They often say that abortion is the only option, but according to the Dublin Declaration, which has more than 1,000 signatures from obstetricians, neonatologists, pediatricians, and other medical professionals, they state that abortion is never medically necessary. I stated in contention too that the importance and the sanctity of life, of how quickly that it can be taken away in an instant, is such a scary and yet moving statement at the same time. We should protect life with every chance that we get because we never know when our last breath is going to be. Contention 3, I stated that human rights are from conception. These are to be up to the utmost importance over everything. Rights from conception to death should be never ending or never failing. And protecting our lives and others' lives should be our greatest worry and yet a blessing that we get to have. Innate and yet always changing life should always stay more important as life and for life than the quality of life could possibly be. So it is with this that I urge the judges to vote for the resolution. Thank you. For one last time, my name is Savannah Holcomb, and I am for the resolution, the individual ought to value the sanctity of life above the quality of life. To respond to the negatives rebuttal, I would like to point out that he stated that he values the quality of life. That means that he still values life. If we're talking about, when he stated that mothers' lives could be at risk based on their financial situations or their health situations, I would just like to point out first that 63,459,781 lives were lost to abortion. This is 63 million lives that may not have been in danger. that may not, or that may have lived to the fullest potential that the Declaration of Independence states that it can have. If a pregnancy is terminated just because of the mother's standards of life, we'll never know for sure if that life in question was worth living. The sanctity of, since we're valuing the sanctity of life above the quality, since he's saying that the quality of life is valued above the sanctity of life, I think it's important to note that we don't have a quality of life without life. There is no sense in pointing out the qualities that we have without having life, period. To re-summarize my case, I would like to point out that about the gift of life and the significance of life when it begins, and just restate again that it should be valued over anything else. The ability to live and breathe is not a gift that everyone can continue to do. It should be valued every second, no matter the greatness or perfectness of it that some people define. To restate what the sanctity of life is one more time, I would like to put two not as commonly used words together. To specify the sanctity of life, I would like to specify it as the principle of protection. The principle of protection is something that should be valued and upheld above everything else that it could ever come in its way. It's a value that should be upheld through all of life. Human rights are also to be utmost importance over everything. Without life, though, we don't have the right to life, or right to human rights. Rights from conception to death should be never ending and never failing. Every person that is breathing has the utmost right to protect the right of life and the security of a person. To conclude, the value of the gift of life and the direct value of life directly correlates with the resolution. The individual ought to value the sanctity of life above the quality of life. For these reasons, I urge the judges to vote affirmative in today's debate. Thank you.